My brothers and sisters in Christ, today's first reading is a passage that is very controversial, and it really doesn't need to be. We hear it's one of the options, and in fact, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful options at weddings, and yet people get squeamish the second they hear the line about wives being submissive to their husbands. Now, of course, we always read things in context of our own time or culture or situation, but despite whatever issues or concepts of feminism and gender roles we may have, we need to understand what Paul is really speaking of here. First of all, we need to remember and look at the first line, not immediately lose our mind at the one line, look right above it. Brothers and sisters, be subordinate to one another. So from the beginning, and if we look at the word that Paul uses here, we see and elsewhere, he doesn't just limit this to wives versus their husbands. He actually speaks of Christian love as subordinating ourselves one to another. And we'll begin to understand this if we really reflect on what Paul says in the rest of the reading today. Wives, be submissive to your husbands, subordinate to your husbands, subject to your husbands. There's different ways the word's interpreted, but in a sense to put yourself under, to put yourself below. So it says, wives do this because the church is subject to Christ. So if marriage is in this model of the spousal love of Christ for the church, the masculine-feminine principle, okay, so subordination of the wife. But then what does it go on to say for the husbands? Husbands, love your wives as Christ has loved the church. Well, we shouldn't have to think long. How did Christ love the church? He spilled his blood for it. The cross is how he loved the church. And so Paul is speaking of a subordination of putting our own interest beneath or below that of another, to, in a sense, to look to the other before even ourselves. This, in fact, speaks to the nature of true charity, the love of God, which is to will the good of another even before our own. The self-gift love that is proper to husbands and wives to each other, and in fact is a participation in the mystery of Christ's love for us, for his church, and what we are being drawn into to ultimately have for everyone. This is a beautiful mystery. It's the mystery of marriage, but it's the mystery of divine love. And so we shouldn't allow this word of subordination, submit to scare us, but instead it's a call to sacrificial love, that we can truly set ourselves up forward. And we live in a culture, I said at the beginning that we shouldn't allow ourselves gender roles and other things to be pulled in. In fact, this reading is provocative, but not for the reason that the culture would own up to. The thing that's truly scandalous about it is it's a direct challenge to a culture that says me first, that my rights, my wants are supreme over everything. Everything else is subject to what I want at all times. And in fact, Christ says, no, the perfect love is willing your good before mine. Not what I want, but what you need. If you need, I submit my want to your greater good. That is the love of God for us and the love that we are called to join. May God bless you all.